It's This Week in Bourbon, the best in bourbon news, or your money back. And here's your headlines for January 28th, 2022. Mississippi and Pennsylvania lawmakers are pushing towards privatization. Maker's Mark has earned its B Corporation certification, and Chattanooga Whiskey has announced its release of their Islay Scotch Cask finish. But first, here's a quick word from our partners. Do you ever pour yourself a bourbon, swirl it around, and then start struggling to come up with tasting notes? And perhaps you're also looking for a good Father's Day gift idea. Well, you can now solve both with a kit from Knows Your Bourbon. And unlike other nosing kits on the market, Knows Your Bourbon kits feature real ingredients for the most authentic aromas. You can smell real Tahitian vanilla bean instead of some synthetic aroma that's just made from chemicals. So head on over to knowsyourbourbon.com and enter code BP10 for 10% off your order. Ed Bly and Rising Tide Spirits are back again with a new release of Old Stubborn Bourbon. And this release of Old Stubborn is a premium hand marriage of 10, 11, and 12-year cask strength, barely filtered pot still bourbon. It comes in at a staggering 123.8 proof. And the flavoring grain for this one, which the last one was wheated, but this time it's now rye. Rich, sweet, and bold with a long finish that's sure to be another eye-opener. You can order online at Sealbox or thebourbonconcierge.com, and you can even purchase in person at Revival Vintage Spirits, and even now with very few select stores in Kentucky. You can get it now while you can, but be sure to do it because it's not going to last long. From their bar to yours, Chad and Sarah of the popular YouTube channel It's Bourbon Night bring you their favorite at-home old-fashioned mix with the new Elemental Elixir's Golden Hour Syrup. It's a custom-made syrup with notes of bold black tea, warm spices, and orange zest. All you need is your favorite whiskey and ice. No bitters needed. One bottle makes 16 drinks, so that's only $1 a cocktail before you add your own whiskey. They can also be enjoyed in other cocktails or spirits, mocktails, coffee, tea, and anything you can think of. It's crafted locally in Lexington, Kentucky, and you can get your bottle now at whiskeyambitions.com. Always find what you love at Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from at the lowest price, it's easy to find your favorite Cabernet or a new single barrel bourbon to try with some help from one of their friendly guides. And with every bottle comes the confidence of knowing you just found something amazing. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love and love what you find only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly and be 21. Welcome back, everybody. Another edition of This Week in Bourbon. And Ryan and I, we have had a big week so far. This is the cool thing I like to talk about, is since this is kind of timely. It's literally This Week in Bourbon. We can talk about everything we've been doing this week. It's a big recording week. We've been talking to a lot of cool people this week. We had an opportunity to sit down and talk with Brent Elliott this week at the Louisville RV and Boat Show. And now we're here tonight talking about This Week in Bourbon. And this has probably been the most bourbon news that we've had so far in 2022. So,
oh God,
I know.
I don't know if I'm ready. I've been talking bourbon like for 4 days straight, 10 hours a day. All right, let's go.
Yeah, I know.
I can do this.
We still got more to go. But let's go ahead and we'll start powering through it. Let's just dive right in. So it was the big headline. It probably actually came out last week, but that's okay. We saved it for this week because I figured this is a good week to talk about it. Why not? So Kentucky Bourbon is expanding its status as the premier signature industry, which is now pouring $9 billion into the bluegrass economy every year and generating more than 22,500 jobs with $1.23 billion in payroll. And this was announced last week with Governor Andy Beshear and the legislative leaders. And this is all done through a research study that was funded through the Kentucky Distillers Association. So distilling also contributes more than $285 million in local and state tax revenue and is in the middle of a massive $5.2 billion capital investment spree that is creating more paying jobs and opportunities for supply chain partners, farmers, communities, and tourism more than ever before. And again, this comes from the biennial report that is conducted and noted by economist Dr. Paul Coombs and commissioned by the Kentucky Distillers Trade Association. This is the sixth report since 2009 that charts the growth and challenges facing the bourbon and distilled spirits industry. The study notes that there are now more than 2,200 distilleries in the U.S. due to the booming craft movement, and that has slashed Kentucky's share of distilleries nationwide from what used to be 24% down to 6%, and the jobs from 43% down to 30%. 10 states now have more licensed distillery operations than Kentucky, but there is an average salary of around $101,000, and this is the first time that the amount has exceeded over $100,000. The all-time record is now 10.3 million barrels of bourbon aging in Kentucky. This is the first time it's been over 10 million, and Kentucky has the 5th highest bourbon and spirits tax rate in the country. And the state's the state's distillers are paying more than anywhere else in federal alcohol tax at around $1.8 billion. And that's more than any other state. And barrel aging tax is the only one, actually, they said we're the only state ever that barrels are taxed as they age, compared to pretty much anywhere else in the world right now. So there's the good and the bad side of it right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise, those numbers. I mean, we see it every day, but I think it's basically a report to say, okay, Governor Andy Beshear and all you state senators, like, quit taxing us. I mean, not quit taxing us, but come on, like, look how much we've done for this state. Yeah. Look how much economic impact, jobs, all good things. And yet, as we keep expanding and we just keep paying you more taxes, let's get some tax breaks. Let's get some more incentives for distilleries to expand and the current ones to, reap the benefits of being here in Kentucky instead of having the burden of being here in Kentucky. So let's just embrace this industry and thank it for all it's done for these past, hundreds of years. And now, especially the past 5 to 6 years, how much economic impact it's done to the state. So come on, government.
Give us a break. Yeah, no, that's true. But it's like, why give you a break when you're not really... that's fine. Nobody's coughing up, it's not a big fuss yet. And I think that's why it's like, y'all keep producing that bourbon, we'll keep taking that tax money. So why should we change?
Yeah,
you're not going to go anywhere. So what are you going to do?
Well, that's totally not true. I mean, you got Sazerac, who's building a huge distillery in Tennessee. They got a bottling facility going up in Indiana.
True.
And I guarantee that's the reason why. And, no telling how, what these people are going to get around taxes. And so that's just, that's why states like Tennessee and Texas and Florida are just, and Indiana are thriving, and our state is broke because we're one of the highest tax states, and it just incentivizes companies to go other places. So, I just think, yes, it's great that Kentucky bourbon is that's the Napa of bourbon, but let's, as a state, embrace it. And because if you provide incentives, you're going to keep more business here, you're going to attract more business here, and that's going to create more jobs, more tax revenue through other avenues of taxes versus through spending and job creation and whatnot, not just a burden tax on the distilleries that just because they're here they have to pay. So I don't know.
Have you ever thought about running?
That's probably
office,
simple-minded.
No.
Somebody on the other side will tell me why I'm wrong, and I'd love to hear their argument. And but it just seems to me like, yeah, let's embrace it.
Well, like I said, do you want to run for office? I think you have an opportunity to change, Ryan.
No, I mean, Eric Gregory's doing a good enough job. He can. I think he should be elected, not me. So,
we'll keep pushing towards them. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. That's good. I totally agree. It is cool to see those numbers. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. But yeah, this was a great report that comes out to kind of say, hey, attaboy, way to go. But, there's some things that you could help us out at the end of the day too. So it'd be nice to see those things happen.
Yep. Totally.
Yep. So let's go ahead and push on. And this is still kind of in that sort of like that law realm, if you will. So Mississippi lawmakers are trying to get the state out of alcohol distribution business, and that's happening with House Bill 512. Pine Belt News reported if Representative Trey Lamars, he's the Republican from Senatobia, he says if this bill is passed, the state would be out of the business by January 1st of 2023, and it would lower the excise tax from 27.5% to 18%. The passage of the bill would also mean that the Department of Revenue would collect taxes on the gross proceeds of wholesalers rather than on individual bottles. Lamar said that the ABC warehouse has struggled to managing its uptick in sales during the during the pandemic, should I say. And he added that the Senate leadership is tired of receiving phone calls about the warehouse's poor service. Furthermore, yeah, I know, isn't that funny? It's like we're tired of the government
fielding these calls.
I mean, could you imagine the government just has to receive phone calls of bad service?
Well, like, I'm sure they just ignore it. They're like, so what?
Back to what
take
I was
a
saying
number.
earlier. Yeah, like what are you going to do about it? Right? That's kind of what it goes down to. As was mentioned, furthermore, Pennsylvania lawmakers are now pushing to privatize liquor sales as well. For decades, Republicans have tried to get Pennsylvania out of the booze business, but have been unsuccessful. However, a new approach that would let voters decide may have the GOP popping champagne corks in the next few years. State Representative Natalie Mihalik wants to privatize Pennsylvania through a constitutional amendment that would silence the governor and empower Pennsylvanians. Democratic Senator Jim Brewster is opposed to liquor privatization because alcohol sales brought in $813 million last year from Pennsylvania and employed thousands of workers. Pennsylvania sees a record of alcohol sales of $2.9 billion last year, and mostly unflavored vodka was the crowd favorite. Mihalik is certain that privatization will pass thanks to a recent push to let voters pass amendments, and polls back her up as she will introduce her bill next week. So this will be interesting to kind of see what's going to happen through different states and moving away sort of this, state-led sort of mandated way. And who knows, and we'll see more things move to a Kentucky-like 3-tier system. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously from my last rant that there's no secret here that I'm kind of...
Let the people eat cake.
Well, it's... The government doesn't need to be in the alcohol business. I mean, it's like... How many people complain about the state-controlled states or the state-ran liquor states and how it's a pain to be there, how they don't want to be there, how it's like, no liquor company wants to do business. They just have to because they want to, but that population's there. And so it's like, I guarantee if you open it up, the more money will flow into the market because, I don't know, free markets to me just always win. But I'm coming from there's no secret here, I'm a conservative mindset, and government has its place, but I just don't think retail sales and liquor boards is it.
Yeah, no, we for anybody that is listening, me and Ryan are usually on opposing sides of parties, and that's what makes us usually in a pretty good like-minded set that we can usually meet somewhere in the middle. But I agree when I look at this sort of stuff is that at the end of the day, the government's still going to get their money. No matter what, you're not going to get away from it.
Exactly.
So why go through all this effort to basically say we're going to have everybody hate us for what we've been doing forever? But the other way you look at it, there's no perfect system. There's some good things that control states get right, but for the most part, they are probably missing out on a lot of opportunities too. Because when you look at the way that you can privatize things, you start putting the data and you start putting the analytics into the hands of people that know what they're doing, and they can say, okay, we can see that sales are doing well in this corner of the market. Let's open up another store over here and we can boost sales by X amount. We can talk to this distributor. We can bring in these products. We can cater to these kinds of people. Whereas, a government's not going to that sort of effort. Like it's just a byproduct of what they've been handed over, since prohibition, basically.
Yeah, and I can't tell me how many small brands just will not enter these control states because they either do some sort of like minimum purchase value, have to have these huge quantities, or they pay, have these crazy payment terms where it's 120 days or this and that, and it's like, that's not good for the little guys either. They can't compete with the big boys in these states because they don't have massive amount of product to send, and they can't wait that long to get payment received and go through all the bureaucracy. It's like, the people are smart. The free market's smart. Like people figure it out. When you give them the opportunity, they will figure it out. When it gets stuck in bureaucracy and all these different channels, it slows down progress. So that's just my philosophy, and I'm sure there's an argument out there that'll tell me otherwise, and I'd love to hear it. And and I'm open to it.
If you want to hear it, please don't send it to our main email. Make sure you send it to Ryan at bourbonpursuit.com.
Send it to that government agency that's fielding the calls about the poor service that they're. So you take it up with them.
Isn't that hilarious that in a news article they said, listen, we're just tired of hearing about the bad service from the warehouse.
We're sorry, but we're not going to do anything about it. Next.
That just makes me chuckle a little bit. Well, we got one more that kind of sits in the political spectrum here. And so this is kind of talking back around the tariffs sort of thing. So as a little bit of a history lesson, back in 2018, U.S. President Donald Trump imposed a 25% tariff on steel and a 10% off on aluminum from the European Union. And the European Union implemented a 25% tariff on American whiskey and other goods in retaliation. And this whole thing went on for a while. However, on October 31st of last year, the U.S. and the European Union agreed to suspend these tariffs from the start of 2022. However, they did remain in place for the United Kingdom. But earlier this week, trade representatives from the U.S. and the U.K. started the joint discussions to address the conflicts over this particular steel and aluminum industry. So the talks will address the U.S. levies that are imposed and the other retaliatory tariffs on both the imports and exports into each regarding country. But according to the UK government, both nations are committed to working towards an expeditious outcome that ensures the viability of steel and aluminum in both markets. And since tariffs come into force, American whiskey exports to the UK, which is the category's fourth biggest market, plummeted by 53%, which is around $150 million to $71 million between 2018 and 2020. So the trade bodies, including Discus, the Bourbon Alliance, which we are also a part of, if you ever go check out the bourbonalliance.com, Wine and Spirit Trade Association, U.S. Chambers of Commerce, and Toast and Not Tariffs Coalition called for an end to the tariff of American whiskey last month against the UK. So we'd like to be able to see that happen. So everybody just keep pushing along, and I think we'll start seeing these kind of break down. I think, Ryan, you kind of talked about last year. We had talked about this whole tariff thing for, I don't know, probably a solid 18 months. And you were very much kind of reading the tea leaves and kind of seeing where this is going. You said, oh, don't worry, this will be gone pretty soon. And that actually happened.
Yeah, and it should have a long time ago. It's stupid policy, just political, once again, Trump's a conservative or whatever, but that was just bad policy, just trying to I don't know, free markets are the best way, and the tariffs are just short term. It's just a political thing. It's not good for anyone. So I'm glad to see this go, and it's great for both, I think, countries moving forward.
Yep. So we'll probably follow up back in a few weeks when we figure.
Can we move on from political
we can
money situation? So I feel like I need to just not give my opinion, and I'm gonna get hate mail from.
Oh no, we'll quit waving our flags for a minute and start talking about something else here. So this is actually a short one, and this is probably just one that most people don't know about yet. And I think if you're in the industry, you might know about it, but it's something that if you're a consumer, you probably don't. And that's that the U.S. beer and bourbon industry is facing another supply chain issue right now, and this is actually dealing with barley. So Lester Jones, he's the chief economist for the National Beer Wholesalers Association, said that these disruptions are going to impact America's barley farmers for the next few years. And that's literally all the tagline was. But I've just kind of heard this through the grapevine. Don't put it as gospel or anything like that. But I've heard there has been at least one, maybe two distilleries in Kentucky that have had to shut down for a few days only because they have had no malted barley to distill for.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I can't get any validation from anyone whether that's true or not, but I have heard that circling around in Bardstown at a few places, but I can't confirm nor deny that that's taking place. But I have heard the rumors about the barley shortage and how it's impacting some folks. That's one thing that's you can't just grow it overnight.
Yeah.
It's so hopefully that's not true and we can find some barley somewhere.
It's one of those things that I was talking to somebody, again, not to name names and kind of keep the people innocent here, is that I was talking to somebody and apparently there's only two places or maybe three in Kentucky. Just everybody buys their grains from the same sort of central location, and they were all just tapped out. You just couldn't get any malted barley or any barley whatsoever. So that has been a big strain on what it's actually meant to a few producers. And when I say shut down, they've had to shut down just production for a few days, which I'm sure they probably enjoy a little bit of vacation here and there. But for anybody that's in the industry, when you shut down a distillery that produces anywhere from, we'll say 700 to 1,300 barrels a day, that means a lot of money down the line. And that's just going to be one more sort of thing that we'll have to hit at some point, just some little bump in the road.
I cannot wait till the term supply chain just goes away. Supply chain issue just disappears. But it's sign of it's just our times right now.
I know. That's what more of the, by the way, let's go ahead and give a plug right now. If you are listening to this, we are also coming out with a new podcast here starting next week. It's launching next Wednesday on the February 2nd. It's called Behind the Pursuit, and you get to get an inside look into what it is to actually, what Ryan and I have gone through and actually building Pursuit Spirits, and you got to get an inside look into all that. But I don't know where I was going with it, but there's part of it I was just kind of going to say is that
I was like, that was a weird segue into that.
It really was. Well, I was going to say, like, these are the things like inside the industry you don't really know about. But I was going to say, by the way, we're also coming out with a new podcast now. You should go and you should listen to it. You can search it for it right now on iTunes and Spotify. Go ahead and subscribe, but it'll be launching next Wednesday. So make sure you go and check that out.
Yeah, hopefully it gives people an understanding of how much goes into just getting a bottle to the shelf and how much one thing can delay and just push back everything or cost this much more money or this or that. Like, it's all not just glitz and glam of master distiller going around giving talks, like talking about recipes. It's a fun industry, but a lot goes into it, and it's a fun story to share.
Yeah. So Behind the Pursuit, a story from bourbon to brand. Go ahead and check it out. But I remember now why I brought that up, because I was thinking, the whole supply chain. I was, we're going through all of our stats and everything that we have to purchase for the next few years, and I was like, crap, we're already figuring out what I have to purchase for 2023, and we're not even 1 month done into 2022 yet, and we have to just start planning that out, and it's bonkers.
We got 4 more days till February 1st. Yeah.
All right, let's get with our next news article, and that's Maker's Mark has earned its B Corporation certification. And this is kind of interesting because I've only really known about C Corps and LLCs, so let's talk about what a B Corp is. And this makes it the largest distiller in the world and the first in Kentucky's bourbon industry to achieve this distinction. And it recognizes companies that are working to build more inclusive and a sustainable economy. So Maker's Mark, they achieved this certification by meeting and exceeding rigorous benchmarks across 5 different categories of the B Impactment Assessment, which is community, customers, environment, governance, and workers. So key efforts recognized as part of the scoring and certification include the following. So Maker's Mark is a spirits industry leader in its environmental practices, implementing innovative programs on its property on Star Hill Farm to preserve the natural resources that go into making its whiskey and the better world around it. Initiatives include a distillery-wide zero landfill initiative, an on-site recycling program that is the first in Marion County, and it's also open to community members. They're also committed to the protection of their natural water sanctuary, beginning with their watershed at Star Hill Farm and the implementation of a solar array that powers the extensive Maker's Mark warehouse complex. The bourbon producer is renowned for its community and philanthropic efforts, which we probably already know about this, but they've invested millions of dollars in the hospitality industry, local Kentucky causes, and art since founding more than 65 years ago. And in recent years, they have also acted as principal partner to the Lee Initiative, which we've talked about plenty of times on the show. We've also reviewed their Lee bourbon bottles on our Whiskey Quickies. And even during the pandemic, they also did a lot of stuff. They've also done a few different things. They're also regarded as one of the best employers in the region, of having some of the best benefits and compensation, including the highest wages in its community, plus opportunities for advancement, job training, and tuition assistance for its employees, and 6-month paid maternity leave. Maker's Mark joins more than 4,000 different certified B corporations around the world, which includes places like Patagonia, Allbirds, Burton Snowboards, and a few others that also meet the highest verified standards of social and environmental performance, public transparency, and legal accountability. Good people.
Surprised Bourbon Pursuit doesn't qualify for, that B corporation.
We really should try to file. We'll see what we can do. I guess we need a few more initiatives, I think, behind our belt.
Yeah. No, kudos to Makers. I mean, yeah, they got that bottle was, I think it's even named Community. That's done a ton of, they've raised just so much money for this area. It's incredible. And everybody I know that goes to work there loves it, and they never leave. Like, nobody wants to leave. So they just take care of their employees. It's a beautiful campus, beautiful place to visit, great place to work, and congratulations to them. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think this is probably just a changing in the sign of the times of the nature of the workplace and everything like that too. Most people, I mean, hell, in pretty much any industry, what do you do to get anywhere? You bounce around, you find a new job, you go for 5 to 15% somewhere else. But if you're able to hold on to it for people, and you got to find the right reasons to do it. I mean, heck, there's not a whole lot of places. Sometimes you get 6 months paid maternity leave. It's following.
Yeah, I got like a week on but I'm the boss.
Well,
so.
that's paternity leave. That's a little bit different, right? I mean,
well, I know.
Didn't say anything about paternity leave, which is a little bit. I mean, I work for a West Coast company, and we're completely different in regards of what you see in.
Y'all get sabbaticals and stuff.
We get mental health wellness breaks. Like that's what we get.
The screen stresses me out.
Oh my!
I need yoga for my carpal tunnel.
I was about to say I've got carpal tunnel. I need a day off, man. I know
that's funny.
I'm so weak when it comes to it, but hey, I don't complain. It's more time I get to spend talking about bourbon with folks like you all. So
that's right.
So somebody gets the benefit.
I'm glad you get it. Yeah.
There we go. All right, so let's talk about another big one. We've talked about this on the podcast previously. And this talked about a man who traveled the world in pursuit of good whiskey. Yeah, what a good name right there. But he had made history after selling his personal collection in the largest whiskey collection to ever go to auction. And this is when they worked with market leader Whiskey Auctioneer, and it was over 9,000 bottles. And 23 auctions later, the curtain has finally closed with the final auction that happened on November 22nd, 2021, bringing the total to around over $4.5 million of bottles that went to auction. So this is an unprecedented on the secondary market. It was Pat's Whiskey Auction that took over 12 months to auction off over a series of specially curated monthly spotlight auctions and dedicated sales, featuring over 5,000 different Scotch single malts, 1,000 blended whiskeys, 600 American whiskeys, and hundreds of often overlooked grain whiskeys and independent bottlings. Pat's whiskey collection was the most complete picture of whiskey that was ever brought to market. And the collector, he was only known as Pat. Yeah, like this SNL thing, like, that's Pat. He brought his first whiskeys. He said they bought his first whiskeys based on the recommendation of a colleague. However, his determination to explore and taste every whiskey and area of it outstripped his ability to actually open bottles. We know what that's like. He was, but then he just began to start acquiring and started building his collection. However, almost 20 years later, Pat's whiskey collection became the largest private collection ever to go to auction, and it was sold again against Whiskey Auctioneer. And there was a collection like this no other. It's been one of the biggest success stories and will likely never be replicated once again on the secondary market. So
was that one buyer or multiple buyers?
No, it was so basically there was one guy. One guy brought in 9,000 of his bottles.
Sure,
I mean,
right.
Let's think. Like, I might have, I don't know, we'll say
500,
maybe probably a little more than that.
Yeah, I think I have 500.
Maybe 100.
You got way more than me.
But this dude brought 9,000 unicorns. Like, that's let's be real. Like, I might.
Mine are unicorns. They're Bourbon Pursuit barrel picks and Pursuits.
But I don't think a bunch of Bourbon Pursuit barrel picks are going to pull in $4.5 million though. But that's the
maybe on NFTs.
That's what we should work into next. But I mean, that's what it is. Like, this guy brought in 9,000 bottles of basically unicorns. And when we talked about the American whiskey side of things, we had an opportunity to be able to be a part of that at one point and promote it to a degree. They sent us a bunch of Dusties that he had, some Van Winkle Dusties and whatnot. So, I mean, they had some really, really good whiskeys, but heck, I mean, that's probably a good turnaround on your investment to build it and say, hey, I'm going to flip this for $4.5 million. Like, it makes news now. And I think that's just going to be the thing that most people, I think, are going to have to come to grasp with the next few years, is that American whiskey is not just made for the whiskey drink anymore. It's made for the whiskey collector.
Oh, I know. It makes me think twice about opening stuff, but I can't help it. It's just, I got to try it. Can't take it to the grave with me, but I guess I can trade in for $4.5 million.
Yeah, just buy a backup. That's what it comes to. You just got to buy 2 of them every single time.
Yep.
All right. So you love golf. I know we got probably a few golf people that listen to this. So Elijah Craig Bourbon announced a new partnership with PGA TOUR professional golfer Max Homa for a multi-year sponsorship deal. So his success both on and off the course has been, since he turned pro back in 2013, he will now be supporting Elijah Craig as the official bourbon of Max Homa. So this 3-time PGA Tour winner will continue to elevate the golf experience for fans through his integrated marketing campaign, social media collaboration, public appearances, and Elijah Craig logo displayed right on the shirt of himself and his longtime friend caddy, Joe Grenier. So Elijah Craig will also debut its 19th hole campaign to extend the fan experience beyond the course this spring and summer. The 19th hole campaign will include premium media placements in golf publications, digital and social media, consumer contests, and Elijah Craig branded golf ball on packs and in-store displays, rounding out the 360-degree program.
I always thought they sponsored me. I had some Elijah Craig golf gear, that I got from Heaven Hill, and they got some nice gear actually. I got some awesome polos and zipped up jackets. So yeah, I'm excited to see the Heaven Hill swag out there on the PGA Tour.
But they need people that can hit the ball straight consistently.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I'm going to have fun. I'm a good scramble partner.
There you go. I always said if I will be a good scramble partner if 5 of my strokes in the day are the ones that we take, like that's a good day for me, honestly.
Yeah, if you need a member guest, I'm a 14 handicap, but I can birdie any hole. So it's like
and oddly enough, I don't know if it's because I used to play. It's not like Golden Tee back in the day. I used to play a good amount of, not even before, it was like before Tiger Woods on PlayStation. I used to play a bunch of golf just on my old computer. It was like a, 386 kind of desktop sort of thing.
Yeah, I remember that game.
And I used to, man, I tell you what, I used to sink putts that were 20, 30 feet long. And to this day, I shit you not, I'm at least good for at least a beyond a 10-foot putt in a round of 18. At least one.
We gotta capitalize on that, or we gotta double that.
Well, that's why my friends call me Kenny Big Putt Coleman.
One time, hopefully it's not on the first hole. If it's done after that,
you set yourself up for a downhill.
Nothing to look forward to after this.
Yep, I'm like, we can stop after the first 9. Like, we don't need to go any more than this. My hands are starting to get clammy. They're starting to hurt. We don't need to do the second 9, right? All right. So when we talk about the, how big bourbon is really getting right here. So Buffalo Trace has set a new visitation record, welcoming more than 340,000 people to its National Historic Landmark Distillery in 2021. This is a 134% increase that it welcomed back in 2020, but there is, of course, this thing called COVID-19 back then. However, it was a 16% increase to the number of visitors it welcomed back in 2019. So since 2010, but visitation of Buffalo Trace has increased by 556%. And this is after they completed a massive expansion of their visitor center back in 2020. And that tripled the size of its previous visitor center. And this allows for, more ample space and comfort for guests to explore the gift shop, tasting in the new expansive rooms and stuff like that. But they're also continuing to grow even more. So they're making more adjustments by being able to renovate its historical free house that's located in the visitor center parking lot into a full-blown welcome center. So over the past year, this space actually served as the place where you'd actually go in and get your COVID-19 health check, and they put the temperature gun at your forehead. But now these renovations are anticipated to be completed by mid-February of 2022, and this will allow the distillery to check in visitors for all activities within the same space by early March. So onwards and upwards.
Yeah, that renovation was nice. I was surprised that they didn't have like a hospitality center, like for cocktails, food, bar, kind of. Just to hang around. I was kind of hoping they would do that, but maybe soon.
Or just
they spent all that money on that cabin on top of the hill. But real nice.
That is a nice cabin. Yeah, it was like somewhere we get some food besides the pulled pork sandwich down there.
That's right.
Yeah. So this is a kind of big news. Maybe I should have put this toward the top. It probably should have been a headline. But Luxco has announced that Ian Stirsman has been named the first master distiller at Lawrenceburg, Indiana's Ross and Squibb Distillery.
Hey, we love Ross and Squibb.
They bring on the Squibbies here. So effective immediately, Stirsman will serve as the master distiller for all Ross and Squibb brands, including George Remus Bourbon and Rossville Union Rye Whiskey, as well as any future brands that they plan on releasing under the Ross and Squibb name. I don't really have to keep saying Ross and Squibb, but I just keep saying it no matter what.
Yeah, just please do like Ross Squibb Reserve or something. I don't know. Just I love it.
Squibby's Antique.
We're going to make this successful for you all. This Ross and Squibb transition.
So if you want to know a little more about his pedigree, back in 2014, he worked in a variety of roles in MGP under the distilling operations. He earned his master distiller certification back in 2019. But prior to joining MGP, he worked as a process engineer and shift manager for PH Gladfelter Company, which is a global manufacturer of engineered materials. He also graduated from 2010 from Ohio University with a Bachelor of Science degree in chemical engineering and with a minor in biological sciences. Sounds like a pretty smart guy. So in his role, Stirsman will be responsible for guiding the product development process for new innovations and annual limited releases. And he's also hosting customers for barrel picks and distillery visits and building brand awareness for the distillery and its brands. But while he's also serving this new role, he will also continue to serve as a resource in support of operations at just basically MGP. So Ross and Squibbies, let's keep it going.
I know, I'd love to see that business card. I'm the master still at Ross and Squibb.
Tell me more about
That's
Squibb.
Awesome. Congratulations to him. That's a big title.
It's a big jump, especially
sounds like a young guy.
Like
2010, jeez.
Yeah, actually, it was funny. I got the email and I replied back to the PR person. I said, so is he just going to be like a face of the brand, or is he actually the lead distiller, the head of everything distilling at MGP? And he said, I'll check with you, but I think it's more of the latter. So it makes it sound like he's probably going to be a big name there.
That's awesome. Congratulations to him. Can't wait to meet him and check out the Ross and Squibb Distillery.
Yeah, like we're gonna pick a barrel of Remus, but can we just go ahead and scratch that out and just put Squibb on it? Is that okay?
I just, that name doesn't get old. I love it.
It sure doesn't. So we all know that next month is Black History Month, and in celebration of it, Old Forester is offering the public a 1 day of free admission to Louisville's Roots 101 African American Museum. So the public may visit the museum free of charge on February 3rd. Additionally, Roots 101 and Kentucky's original black bourbon enthusiast, or Kobe, which we've had Jamar on the show before, they have chosen a single barrel of bourbon that will also be sold at Old Forester. And proceeds from the bourbon will benefit the museum and its mission to promote an understanding of appreciation of African Americans' achievements, contributions, and experiences. The pick is going to be a barrel strength. It says barrel strength proof. It's barrel strength, and it's the first time that Roots 101 and Kobe have jointly selected their own barrel of Old Forester. Roots and Old Forester are neighbors right there on Louisville Historic Row, so it's going to be really easy to see if you're happen to be in the area there on February 3rd.
Where's the museum again?
Literally,
it's right next to Old Forester.
Right next to Old Forester. Oddly enough,
that's cool.
No, it's
I want
like
to check that out.
I've been right there, because you've got that, you got Doc's Bourbon Room, you've got a few different things right there. So there's plenty to check
Duluth
out.
Trading Company.
Yes,
Merle's across the street. But yeah, I know. I want to check that out. That sounds like a cool museum.
You can kill a whole afternoon just in that block right there.
I know. I wish George's was back open. That was a good bar there, in because they had the Jackie's Icon cocktail menu, and it was good.
Have they not back? Oh, they're not open back up? Like still?
I think they've opened tours and gift shop, but I don't think they've opened George's yet.
You think it's a pandemic thing? You think it's a staffing thing?
I think it's staffing.
This is all speculation, by the way.
No, I probably staffing. I had reservations at Michter's last Saturday to get drinks after dinner at 8:30, and I'd reserved it like early in the week because it's hard to get reservations. And then I got a text from Resi 2 days before. It said, due to staffing issues, we will no longer be open on Saturday. And so I think a lot of distilleries, even Bardstown Bourbon, Willett, they can't do dinner service now anymore because they just can't have the staff to do it. They just can only find people to do lunch. So I think a lot of people are having issues with that.
All right. So if you're in the area, you're looking for a job, you need that JOB, you need that dollar Skrilla, y'all, go ahead, start figuring out how to make a Sazerac and an old fashioned. You'll get a job in no time.
Yep.
If you're listening to this. Yep.
I'll come.
So let's talk about some Alabama whiskey real quick. So Canucka Brands broke ground on their new distillery called Canucka Ridge Distillery in Troy, Alabama. And this distillery will produce Clyde Maize Alabama whiskey, bourbon, and rye. The distillery will be built on 76 acres and was designed by Luckett and Farley of Louisville, Kentucky. It's initially starting with a 24-inch column still, and it will be in operation with room for additional stills as well. The current plan includes a rickhouse with a 10,000-barrel capacity, a gift shop, restaurant, and tasting room, and it's expected to be completed in the spring of 2023, but production will begin immediately, and the first product produced from this facility will not be released, but is projected until 2027. So, second time.
We'll see you then.
Yeah. Put it down, and we'll see in a few years. Until then, keep sourcing and we'll keep drinking it, I guess.
Yeah, where is Troy? I'm trying to think.
I don't know. I don't have an atlas with me, an atlas or a map. I could pull up Google Maps, but I guess I'm just lazy to figure it out.
Yeah, that's okay. But congratulations to them. That's probably a big deal.
It is. I mean,
your own distillery. It's better than my distillery.
Better than both our distilleries because we own none of it. But that's also, one of the things that, let's go ahead and plug it again. Behind the Pursuit, we talked about this as an episode of like what it would cost to actually start our own distillery. And Clyde Maize, they started for a while sourcing and selling product, and after a while you have to figure out, do you continue down this path, or what does it look like to start your own distillery? And we said it's literally probably a $30 million decision. So that's one of the things that you can learn. So go subscribe to that other podcast we're starting. But let's talk about something else, because I saw an interesting post on Facebook, and this is like not even really like bourbon news. I just thought this was super interesting. So I saw this on a Facebook group. Somebody posted a picture of a wall of bourbon. It had about 30 or 40 bottles on it, but all of them had hang tags on it, and they all had someone's name on it. But the caption read on this post, it said, "My local barber lets you bring in bourbon, and they will store it for you, and you can drink it while you get your hair or beard cut." And this, I just did a little bit of digging, is at C.S. McCullough's, I think it's C.S. McCullough's in Johnson City, Tennessee, where they describe themselves as a high-end men's barbershop and lounge. I don't know. I thought that was kind of different, kind of cool. Didn't really expect it.
Yeah, I'd be all for it. I mean, I wonder if that's legal, but if you can just bring in booze and sell them, but I'm sure it is.
It's just like storing your whiskey at your friend's place. You're just drinking it there, but it's probably you need something on site that says you can store. Shit, we probably just did them dirty, didn't we? Because most of these things that you get are either news articles or they're press releases. This is literally just something I saw on Facebook, so hopefully I don't get them in trouble.
Yeah. Sorry in advance.
Yeah,
Blame it on Kenny.
That, or you all are going to be booming with business real soon, because people will just be walking in there, bringing in bottles of bourbon to get their hair trimmed, and just want to.
I do love Johnson City. That East Tennessee area is awesome. I love it. So yeah, I'll go to that barbershop and come to East Tennessee next time.
Well, I mean, you got to so everybody doesn't know, Ryan's wife is a hairdresser, and she does Ryan's hair all the time. So how are you going to break that news to her?
Yeah, but I'm always last to get done. I have to like beg her, like, so when can I get one?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm tired. Put you maybe tomorrow.
It's like a contractor.
And I don't get bourbon served. That's for sure.
She just goes, "Why is your hair getting all gray?"
Yeah.
Quit working.
Can't we dye it? And I'm like, no.
I don't envy that part of you. That's funny though. All right, so our last story of the night, I thought this was just lighthearted, but let's keep it short because I know we're running kind of heavy on time here. But this was talking about the heaviest drinkers in the animal kingdom are a lot smaller than you might think. Ryan, did you ever see this article? Like, think of the animal that can actually hold its liquor the best?
I don't know. Is it like the ant or something? Because it can carry like 1,000 times its weight. The same with booze. You're
thinking pretty tiny, but we need to think a little bit. This may be a little bit bigger for that. So we think about elephants. They're massive relative to their weight. However, they lack a gene for alcohol metabolism, and humans actually rank pretty high thanks to our ancestors' propensity of actually picking fermented fruit off the ground. But to find the real champs, you have to think small. You have to think really small. You have to think of a hamster. So just a bottle of unsweetened Everclear on the cage, they find out that they love it. And this says Gwen Lupfer, she's a psychologist at the University of Alaska, Anchorage, who studied the alcohol consumption in hamsters. They regularly down 18 grams per kilogram of body weight a day, and that's the alcohol equivalent of a human drinking a 1.5 liters of 190 proof Everclear. So in the wild, hamsters hoard ryegrass seeds and fruit in their burrows, and they eat this fermenting as it stores and becomes more and more alcoholic over the winter. In the lab, they're pretty happy with Everclear, and given the choice between water and alcohol, they actually ended up going for the booze, and they can drink a lot before getting drunk. So they did a study with dwarf hamsters as well. So
sounds like a cruel study. It's a fraternity hazing pledges.
Is it a study or is it just like, we'll get these animals drunk and see what happens? But there's some. They are doctors after all, so I guess they can put that.
Of hamsters?
I don't know. I guess I should have looked at it, but it is a doctor. It's a psychologist. I don't know. We'll get to this.
Yeah, no.
Part of it, they're looking at a study where they rated the animal's drunkenness on what they called a wobbling scale. So they scored the hamsters from 0 for no visible wobbling to 4, which is what they would just fall onto their sides and just can't right themselves. However, the hamsters never averaged above a 0.5 on the wobbling scale, even at the highest oral doses. So when her and her team instead injected the ethanol directly into the hamsters' abdomens, then the hamsters didn't do so well. They started wobbling and falling over at much, much lower doses. But when consumed orally, as the doctor explains, that alcohol goes straight from the gut into their liver, which starts breaking down the mind-altering toxin that is the ethanol. And hamsters' livers are so efficient at processing ethanol that very little ends up in their blood. So there you go.
What was the hypothesis of this study? What were they trying to prove?
I don't even know why it's This Week in Bourbon. I just thought it was a really cool article.
Yeah, that's, gosh, could you imagine being one of those researchers? Hey, you get over there and see that hamster, see if it wobbles or not, and rate it 1 to 5.
It was funny, I even pulled it out of here because I was just like, okay, it's too much to read. But what they ended up doing as part of this wobbling scale, it's not just like looking at them and seeing if they were wobbling, but they literally painted their feet and made them try to walk in a line to figure out if they were trying to try and see how they would fall on the scale.
And that's why you don't give the government any money, because this is what the funds go towards.
But at the end of the day, we have an amazing story.
You can understand how much hamsters can drink. Humanity is better off for that.
And now we can go to our first commercial break. So stick with us. We're back with some more bourbon news. If you're anything like me, then you can't get enough about bourbon. And that's why I'm a subscriber to Bourbon Plus magazine. Bourbon Plus is a quarterly publication that tells the stories from the heart of bourbon, the farmers who grow the grain, the distillers who labor over the process, and the people like you and me who raise their glasses to celebrate it all. Subscribe to Bourbon Plus magazine today at bourbonplus.com, that's PLUS.com, and use code PURSUIT at checkout for $5 off your subscription. Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point-of-sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. Shopify's point-of-sale is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person. And with Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers in-line and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns, from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. And get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone. Transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system or use Shopify's point-of-sale Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Do retail right with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/bourbon, all lowercase, and go to shopify.com/bourbon to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/bourbon. All right, everybody, we're back with some more bourbon release news. I promise no more hamster talk, even though I think that was kind of funny. I love good little news things like that where you probably wouldn't hear it or find out about it unless it just ended up popping on your news your Facebook feed or anything like that. But that's one of those things that it stumbled across my syndicate of bourbon and alcohol news, and I said, "Shit, this is funny. People should probably know about it."
Yeah, I didn't come on Mark Brown's newsletter, so I'm glad you brought it to light.
All right, so let's talk about some other bourbon release news here. So this is probably just for those that happen to be in the area, but Broad Branch in downtown Winston-Salem is going to be releasing Big Winston's Bourbon 5-year bottled and bond single barrel. This limited release offering consists of a single barrel and will only be available for purchase inside the tasting room at the distillery, and is their oldest bourbon that they have yet to release to date. It was filled with their pot still whiskey from their very first bourbon run. It's hand bottled at 100 proof, non-chill filtered, and carries a retail price of $60. There you go.
That's awesome. Congratulations. First release.
Congratulations. If you're in the area, let us know how it is. So this is a big one. I say big. I say big only because I have a feeling this brand is going to come out of nowhere and it's going to make a spike, and we're going to be like, what the heck? Where did this come from? So
Ross and Squibb?
No, it's not Ross and It's no Squibbies. No Squibbies on this one. But it's Wolf Spirits. You might not know Wolf and might not know about it yet, but you might have seen this thing called Puncher's Chance. So I think you're going to see this brand kind of start coming and emerging a little bit here. Actually, because this brand, as and the press release said, that this was actually started who was the former chief marketing officer of Campari, and his name's Umberto, and apparently he has a very thick Italian accent. But he's really engulfed into American whiskey, and so this is how this brand is really coming to light here. So Puncher's Chance is announcing their first ever limited release offering, and it's called the Distance Straight Tennessee Bourbon. And when I say distance, it's D12 Tance, as in like Eminem's old group D12 with TANCE on it. If you even know who D12 is and you're like that school and old school of rap, we're doing pretty good right there. So back to the whiskey. Aged for 12 years in traditional stone and wood rickhouses and finished in California Cabernet Sauvignon barrels, just 70 barrels of the Distance sourced from golly, I'm stumbling over here. IJW. I mean, I don't know. How did I mess that one up? IJW Whiskey Company in Louisville, Kentucky. It was born from mash bill of 84% corn, 8% malted barley, 8% rye. We know where it's coming from. It says a proprietary yeast strain, somewhere in the hollow. But the brand name of Puncher's Chance itself is actually a boxing reference, and that denotes that almost anyone is possible of a knockout punch no matter what the odds are. And it's named after their latest aged spirit of the Distance is the Double Entradar, meaning that both of the age of the liquid and 12 official rounds in a formal boxing match. There's only be 2,000 cases produced in the U.S. market. You can get in a few different states, and it's going to be 96 proof and has a $120 SRP.
Yeah, I remember reading that article about them, about their everyday offering, and it was like 4 to 5 year Kentucky products. So I was like curious to where, they were sourcing from and whatnot. And I'm surprised to see a Tennessee product being offered on this, but
this is also, I think, probably one of the first times we might have talked about it on this podcast is that this IJW company whiskey in Louisville, this is actually a big outfit, but this was in the press release, so I don't feel bad talking about it. Like, it's starting to get a little bit more name recognition out there. Yeah, there is some money, and there are a ton of barrels behind them, and they are super behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, as like you said, as it unfolds, what goes on with that brand, because being in the industry, we understand how much loot's behind this brand or this IJW company, and it's going to be interesting to see how they make their name in the whiskey world moving forward.
For sure. So stay tuned for all that. We also talked about that we've been doing a recording week this week, but even last week we actually sat down with Jason Bronner, who's this blender and everything like that behind Buzzard's Roost whiskey. So we got some Buzzard's Roost news here. So let's talk about that a little bit. So they announced a limited release of their toasted French oak bourbon. And this is in similar style to their innovation of their toasted barrel rye. And so master blender Jason Bronner selected a 5-year-old double-barreled Indiana bourbon for finishing in a toasted barrel, but there's a twist. Instead of a traditional American oak, Buzzard's Roost use a 24-month seasoned oak from Limousin region of France, or Limousin, I don't know how you would really say it, known for what it's said to be its ability to impart the intense color and sweetness and complexity to its whiskey. The mash bill for the tested oak is 74% corn, 21% rye, and 5% malted barley. And this goes into Buzzard's Roost proprietary toasted French oak barrels. It's bottled at 105 proof and also has a suggested retail price of $85.
Nice. Congrats, Jason. I wonder which 12 proprietary cask it went into, but
I know
he won't tell.
That's a little nugget for people to listen to later on about. You got to listen to our interview we did with him to kind of get a little bit more behind the scenes of their proprietary barreling process. You know, he didn't give you everything, but he spilled a few little things out there that we were kind of like, oh, okay, we're picking it up. I see what you're doing. It's a little bit different. You're not just, slapping your name on a bottle and putting it out there. You got a little proprietary something going on there.
Oh yeah, it's doing good.
So let's talk about our friends down in Tennessee for a minute. So Chattanooga Whiskey has announced their second release of its barrel finishing series, Islay Scotch Cask Finish, and this is exclusively going to be happening at their Riverfront Distillery. So this limited edition is a part of their barrel finishing series, and it celebrates the union of Chattanooga Whiskey's signature Tennessee high malt whiskey with a variety of classic finishing casks. And this is coming from a combination of their unique bourbon mash bills, all containing over 25% of specialty malt, and each batch is made to complement the flavor characteristics of the finishing barrel. The Islay Scotch Cask Finish is crafted from a pair of complementary flavored mash bills, including a Scottish-style bourbon recipe containing peated malt, naked oat malt, racy here, and honey malt. Each batch is made from a blend of 3 finishing casks. It's funny, I should probably read these before I put them in. I just like copy paste, and now we're getting to them. But these are all sourced from 3 different distilleries in the southernmost part of Scotland. And the region of Islay is renowned for its rich and earthy and peat-forward scotches, which are made from barley malt that is dried, smoked with peat moss native to the island. It's aged over 4 years, including 3 months, in their 250-liter Islay Scotch hogsheads. And Islay Scotch Finish is going to be bottled at 95 proof and available at a suggested retail price of $50 per bottle. Did we lose you at Pete there?
Normally you would, but we did a barrel pick with them recently, and their peated bourbon was actually pretty good for a peated. It was normally I get one sniff or taste of peat and I'm like, Cecil's out, but I could actually drink that one. So yeah, if you like peated products, I'm sure this will be right up your alley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so different. I mean, we talk to people all the time, and you've got to have a knack of having a background in Scotch or wanting that, because most people, if you're in the bourbon world, you're a sweet corn person. So you've got to definitely have a taste for something like this, because most of us, I'm going to say most of us, me, I'm in the camp that I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try it, but odds are I'm going to be one of those people that have to hold my nose if I drink it.
Yep, but not everybody's like you, Kenny. So.
Exactly. All kinds of people make the world go around, and there's got to be somebody that likes it. They wouldn't do it. Yep. So congratulations, Chattanooga. We love everything you do, and can't wait to get our barrel pick in. It'll be fun.
I'm excited.
All right, so the last one. I feel bad. It's This Week in Bourbon. We have to finish off talking about Scotch, because this is a big release, and I just figured, heck, we got to talk about it because it's a monumental mark for this particular brand. So the GlenDronach unveiled a limited release of its first ever 50-year-old single malt. So this is the Highland Distillery's oldest single malt Scotch whiskey to date. It was distilled back in 1971. And this GlenDronach, aged 50 years, is aged in Pedro Ximénez and Oloroso sherry casks from the Spanish bodegas of Jerez and Andalusia. It was selected by master blender Rachel Berry, who you might have listened to on the podcast previously. And these casks were married for a final maturation in single Pedro Ximénez casks. Only 198 bottles of this expression will ship worldwide, and each hand-numbered bottle of the GlenDronach, aged 50 years, comes in a leather case, accompanied by an embossed leather booklet detailing the distilling history, tasting notes, and production. And it's being bottled at 43.8% ABV and has a retail price. Let's play a little game of Price is Right. What do you think it is? Retail price of?
$20,000.
Damn, you're pretty good. $25,000.
Oh, really?
Yes. Exactly. So $25,000 per bottle.
I can't remember if Glenn was like top of the hill or bottom of the hill.
The Glens, yeah.
Rachel was a fascinating interview. She's very smart, and I learned a lot from her. And I actually I really enjoyed the Glendronach 12-year-old. It was aged in sherry cask, I think. It was more fruity, fruit forward, not a peated type of Scotch. So it was a good gateway Scotch if you're wanting to dabble. But I'd love to try a 50 years, so maybe Rachel will send us a sample.
I don't think they're sending us $25,000 bourbon, man, or $25,000 whiskey, but we can ask.
It'll be like that sample of Last Drop we got, where it was literally like
the last drop,
2 mLs.
But if you do want to know more about Dr. Rachel Berry, I just pulled it up. It's episode 234. Go back and listen to that. She was such a great interview, great personality, and I think you'll kind of get a knack for understanding how the Scotch world actually works, because it's funny going into it. We were just the dumb bourbon guys coming in talking about Scotch because we didn't have no idea what to do. And she told us she gave us the Scotch 101, and we're talking to somebody that's a legend in this world.
Well, it's really not much different than every other show. We're just two dumb guys coming in. But we were especially dumb in this category. So.
That's very true. Very, very true. But that is going to wrap it up for This Week in Bourbon. We covered a lot of ground tonight.
Yep. I got all week. When it hadn't stopped. Got 2 more days.
Yeah, I know.
Well, what day is this here? Fridays?
This is going to run on Friday. So we're gonna be wrapping everything up
on the
day that you're listening to this. So
by the time you hear this, I will be not talking bourbon for 3 days to revamp for next week.
Hopefully. Take a little mental health break, Ryan. I'll let you go and take one of those.
I'm like sweet corn, barley, this, that.
Yeah. But with that, cheers, everybody. We'll see you next week.